Am I the a-hole for not meeting my dying father? I have absolutely no contact with my parents. I don't talk to them, I don't visit them. To be honest, I'd rather never see them again in my life. This might sound bad, but I do have my reasons. I was kicked out of my parents' house the day after my 18th birthday. My father claimed that an 18-year-old is already an adult and they should be able to live by themselves. Just a heads up, I was still in high school when that took place. I worked part-time, but I couldn't afford housing. I slept on the streets for about a few weeks until I found a shelter. Not only that, but I had too many rough days after that. The streets are no place for anyone, especially someone that young. Through the help of some NGOs, I managed to finish school, get into a technical course for programming, and get a decent job. Now, 10 years after that, I just graduated college. I saved up to actually do that. However, I can't forgive my parents. I never contacted them and they didn't contact me. That was until yesterday. Somehow my family, uncle, got my phone contact and sent me a message. My father is extremely sick, and it is likely that he might pass away in the next few days. My uncle told me that my father wanted to see me one last time and asked if I could go there. I said I would not go. I absolutely resent and bear a grudge against my father and mother. They kicked me out, and she did absolutely nothing to stop it. As you might assume, my uncle started to get heated and called me heartless, ungrateful, and an a-hole among other things. And I'm pretty sure most of my family feels the same way about me. Honestly, I'm only asking here for my sanity's sake. I will not be meeting them, but I understand that the man is dying. And by not going, I'm denying something to a dying man, which might make me an a-hole. However, even if it does, I do not care. I'd rather be an a-hole than see those two ever again. Now for the top comments. He's an adult. He's old enough to die on his own. F your uncle and F your dad. Not the a-hole. And where was this uncle when your parents threw you out? Did he stand up for you against your parents then? Honestly, where was anyone of Opie's family? Let's be honest, they probably have no clue what happened and were told an alternate reality from the parents. Came here to say this. The parents probably lied and said he left on his own and went no contact. Opie, you're not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. The day he kicked you out is the day you were no longer his child. And just because he's dying does not mean you have to forgive him for what he did. You have every right to not visit him, and he's most likely not gonna apologize and try to justify what he did. He'd probably try to take credit. If I hadn't put you in the streets, you never would have developed the initiative and work ethic to succeed. Now change my bad pen. Now change my bad pen. He's only doing this for himself and maybe have a good/better image. I know what I did was wrong, but I'm asking for forgiveness type of thing. And if he wasn't dying, he would have never tried to reach out to OP. 100% not the a-hole, but I'm a bit of a vindictive witch at times, so I'd visit, just once, to tell your dad that you wanted to check that he's actually dying, and will never forgive him and that you hope this hunts him until his last breath. Earth-scorched and salted. But you may need therapy if you go this route. In fact, you may need therapy regardless. Good luck, OP, and look after yourself. I like your style. Personally, I thought that there would be many nights when things were awful and OP may have retained hope his parents would regret their decision and help him by taking him out of the hellish situation he was in. So 1. I'd vacillate over the not going, maybe and maybe not, until I heard he was really sick. 2. Then agree to go and cancel a few times to get their hopes up. 3. And when they were about to figure out, say, for sure going today at X. 4. Call from on the way there and ask to be in speakerphone so dad and mom could hear my voice. 5. Then tell them, for many nights I had false hopes you would regret kicking me out and be kind, find me and offer help. But you never did. I wanted you to know the feeling of that hope being ripped away before you died. I never intend to visit. 6. And maybe laugh. But maybe that's a tad much. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being honest with my parents about my childhood? I, 24 female, was poor growing up. We had to rough it throughout my childhood and teenage years. College was funded solely by scholarships and awful part-time jobs. I don't hold any resentment towards my parents over this, but it was hard at a time. I think I would still be struggling now had things been different. I met my partner, 31 male, during my sophomore year and we've been together for just under 5 years. His family was in the exact opposite financial situation as mine. He has an established position in his father's company. He has since we met, and works remotely. Since my graduation in May, we've spent almost the entire summer with his parents, sightseeing and bouncing around to their different vacation homes. It was such a wonderful experience. I never thought I'd experience something like that, but the adjustment was easier than I expected. As we headed back home this week, we stopped by to visit my parents, 45 female and 47 male. While there, I mentioned that this summer felt like what all the summer breaks of my childhood should have been, and how excited I was for the future when my partner and I have children and can give them this treatment. My mother apparently took incredible offense to what I had said, and said they had done the best they could for me as a child. I replied that I never claimed any differently. The argument ended with us still not seeing eye to eye, and my husband and I made an early departure than we had been planning on, thanks to the tension in the house that remained. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You can be honest about your childhood by saying you were poor. Saying my childhood should have been like this when your parents didn't choose to be poor is a huge a-hole move. It was just so easy to adjust. Someone please take the silver spoon out of Opie's mouth. You're the a-hole and ungrateful. Not everybody marries rich. Your parents loved you despite you draining their income, didn't they? I'm sure they would have had a more lavish lifestyle without having to raise you, but they did the best they could for you. Damn, imagine treating your own parents like this. I will never understand how people can be like this. The only thought in my mind is getting to a situation where I can do things for my mother who did her best with 3 children after a nasty divorce. We didn't have the picture-perfect childhood, but she did her best to provide for us, and we had it better than most people would have in our situation, and the only thought in my mind is, how am I ever going to be able to repay my mother? You're the a-hole. What your summer breaks should have been? How utterly insensitive and hurtful. Your parents didn't choose to be poor. No one does. It's shocking that you don't see how unkind what you said was. Not just insensitive, but entitled as heck. Summer break should be a time kids get a break from school, and that's about it. The vast majority of people never jet off anywhere. I know mine were more like trips to the lake to swim or maybe camping. We got on a plane for a trip maybe twice before my 18th birthday, and my family was nowhere close to poor. For someone raised with very little, Opie sounds spoiled as heck. No kidding. My family was solidly middle class, but we surely didn't have elaborate vacations while I was growing up. And that certainly doesn't mean I was deprived or we were poor. Something tells me Opie is grossly exaggerating how poor she was growing up. More likely her family was working class or lower middle class. She needs to get over her entitlement. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not paying for my daughter to start yet another degree? My wife and I have 3 daughters. We always told them we would pay for their college tuitions provided they wanted to go. Our eldest, Hazel, graduated in 2018. She started at a 4-year university and lasted there 6 months before dropping out and coming home. We had to eat a lot of fees because by that point they were non-refundable. Her reason for dropping out was that she didn't want to pursue that major anymore. We told her she could switch to undecided or general studies until she did figure it out, but she insisted on dropping out. From there, she enrolled in the local community college, which was cheaper, but as we didn't qualify for financial aid, we were paying for all of it. She stayed through till the world fell apart in 2020. She tried online schooling, but it was too hard and we respected that. Our younger 2 were struggling with virtual school. I can't imagine how hard college was. She took some time off, then in January of this year, started at another 4-year college. Keep in mind, only some of her credits transferred, but we were supportive. Last month, she came to us and said she wants to drop out yet again and go to cosmetology school. I have nothing against that, but after spending tens of thousands of dollars on these other schools, she's got to pay her own way on this one. I told her if she finishes and gets her license, I will reimburse her, but she needs to figure out how to finance it on her own. She asked how she's supposed to do that, and I told her to get a job. She got upset and said I'm going back on my word. It doesn't help that this year our middle daughter graduated, and we're paying for her to go to a 4-year college. Hazel said this isn't fair, and I said I'd do the same to her sister if she was as wishy-washy. Now, Hazel won't talk to me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You've given her a chance and a backup. There comes a time when we all have to stand on our own 2 feet. Would Hazel qualify for an apprenticeship? Those aren't a thing around here. Cosmetology school is certainly cheaper than a 4-year school. Why not determine how much she would have cost at her 4-year school, and if she has it hit there, offer the rest as a kind of education budget? She's more than hit what a 4-year school would be. Not the a-hole. You've paid for 3 false starts. She can pay for the rest. And they're willing to compensate her if she finishes. That's a better deal than I ever got. Totally agree. She has to learn to finish what she starts. She'll just do this again if OP agrees to her demands. Not the a-hole. You did pay. Twice already. She has a pattern of not finishing what she starts. I wouldn't want to pay for a 3rd shot either. You didn't say, I'll pay all schooling for all time, no matter how many different paths you take, and she shouldn't pretend that you did. You're right that if she's serious about this, she'll pay for it since she's now been given reassurance. You'll reimburse her if she finishes. You're still offering to pay, but only after she shows she's serious about it and has completed it, not before. You're being more generous than I would be at that point. You still have 2 other kids to pay for, and maybe she'll finally understand how generous you've been if she has to foot the bill for once. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for cutting my daughter's financial support off and monitoring every cent she spends? I'm so livid right now about the entire situation that I can't see straight and make a fair judgment. My daughter is heading off to college this year. I and my wife both decided years ago that if/when she went to college, we did not want her working to support herself. Well, now that time has come, and we've been working on ways to make sure she can fully focus on her education. I and my wife budgeted out a monthly allowance for her, along with her tuition payments. A big part of this is that I want to also teach her to budget out her money and figure out how to handle her own purchasing. While she was still going to live at home while she went to school, and it was made clear that though she could still eat with us and use some of our stuff, we expect her to start buying her own necessities and prepare her food. We also cut back on our grocery bill to an appropriate amount to only cover I, my wife, and our other child. We decided this would take effect in June, and made sure for months that she would be ready for it. We taught her how to balance a checkbook, income versus expenses, the basics of cooking, etc. To say the first month was a disaster is an understatement. Within only 11 days, she had blown through her entire monthly allowance. This was not an insignificant amount either. We gave her $1,000, and she blew through it in 11 days. She does not pay any rent, utilities, health insurance, etc. She had no clue how she blew through that much money, but I figured it out incredibly quickly. She spent $500 alone eating out, $300 at Walmart and who knows what, and the rest on gas somehow. Again, in a car she does not pay for at all. She then asked if it would be possible to increase the amount of money she was being given. I lost it. I held nothing back and told her there was no way in hell this was going to happen again. The experiment was over, and there was no way I was going to give her a single cent of unsupervised money. We spent months teaching her, and I mean literally every weekend I was teaching her how to be a responsible adult. I told her that I was the most disappointed in her I have ever been at that moment, and she knows I feel I have failed as a parent. We are not rich, never have been. $500 out of every one of my paychecks is a very, very noticeable amount. I've been monitoring her like a hawk ever since. I give her no more than $20 cash, and if she ever wants to use her card, she needs to tell me the exact amount so I can transfer it over. This has not been easy and has caused strain in our relationship. I just tell her now she can get a job if she wants, because then at least it's her own money. Now though, I'm getting backlash from extended family who have learned what's going on. My wife is in firm agreement, but now I'm second-guessing myself. Edit, the amount of money I gave her is rightfully being looked at. It was way too much, and I think I realized that probably soon after she spent it all. My budgeting, in my mind, was $300 for groceries, $200 for other essential purchases, $200 for gas, and $300 for school-related purchases/surplus money. I overshot but didn't care because I thought whatever she had left over could go into savings, and she could have a good chunk of savings just in case. What this has taught me is that I've taken this personally and allowed myself to become nihilistic towards my daughter. Her attitude set this all off, and I feel that is truly what I could not forgive about this. My parents never would have dreamed to do this with me, so when she spends $120 at a steakhouse paying for her friends, when we have not gone out to a steakhouse like that pretty much ever as a family, I felt disrespected that she dared ask for more money. I was naive to give her $1,000 like this, or to really expect that this adulting experiment would have worked out. Gonna step back and rethink what my priorities should actually be and what I need to take away from this all. I have to say, you're the a-hole. You waiting until your daughter was 18.5 years old to start teaching her any kind of basic adult life skills? No freaking wonder she's not good at it. If you wanted her to be plug-and-play functioning adult, you should have started years ago. You only have yourself to blame for this. Also, one failure and then you conclude she'll never learn? Not if she isn't given the chance to learn. Was she stupid with her money? Yes. But then she needs to feel the consequences of not being able to do anything or go anywhere because she can't afford it for the next 20 days. I'm not saying give her more money, but you basically showed her swimming videos, then dropped her at the deep end of a pool, and when she struggled, you scolded her, pulled her out, and forbade her from ever going to the pool again. Micromanaging is teaching her nothing but resentment. Exactly. She's never had a chance to actually spend money on her own. They should have started sooner and with a smaller budget. She has to learn by doing. Otherwise, she's going to have zero control over her financial habits once she's on her own. Everyone sucks here. It was first month and she did a big screw up, yes. But if she's only allowed to screw up once, you're setting her up for failure. This. Also, did they brought her to food shopping before all of this? Does she know how to cook at all? If the answer to both questions is no, no wonder she went on to grab food from takeout. She probably doesn't know how to manage stuff. And while she can't be totally excused, this is a good time to teach her how to do those stuff. Opie's response is way too extreme and will not teach the kid to be responsible with money and can in the long term prepare the kid to be financially mistreated under someone else's. Because the thought is, I am not responsible enough with money and I need to be under the supervision of someone else. Am I the a-hole for suggesting that my parents move out of the house? I am the oldest of my parents' 8 children, all 3 to 16 years old while I am 23. My biological father died 2 months after I was born, and my stepfather has been present in my life since I was 3 years old. The house I currently live in belonged to my paternal grandfather when he died, as he had no wife and children as my biological father was an only child, made me the only heir of his estate. He passed away when I was 15. As the house was quite big, 7 bed, 4 baths, my parents talked to me about our family moving there as it would be cheaper and could accommodate everyone. The only thing I wanted was the master suite for myself, and it actually became a bedroom. Currently, my mother is 6 months pregnant. Again. I work and earn a good salary. I don't pay the house bills, though I help with the groceries. This month, I started having complaints from my parents saying that I should help more with my younger brothers. I always argue that I'm not their father, and that is their responsibility. And as they are so financially tight, started to charge me to pay some bills because they were not able to. And I started to pay some, though not as much as they wanted. I had my limits when they suggested I move into their room, as they would need space for the new baby and that since they pay most of the bills, they should have the biggest room. I told them they can pay most bills, but they don't pay a dime on a huge house that's only in my name. And if they want more space for their 9th child, I suggest they move to another house, because I am the owner of the house and I won't give up my comfort because they won't stop having children. They started calling me an ungrateful son, and that they raised me to be empathetic and kind, but I am showing myself to be a cold and extremely selfish person who threatens his own parents to kick them out of the house for not agreeing with the suggestion. I talked to my maternal grandmother, and she said that she understands my side but that I may have been very hard on them, especially since they were my parents. They're not talking to me now, by the way. Am I the a-hole? Edit. We're not in the US. Obviously, I'm not able to support the house on my own, but it's a great house for renting. And if I did that, I could rent a smaller house and live on that money alone. The fees are yearly here. My grandfather left a responsible accountant to pay that for me with some money left for this. So no, they don't put money in the house besides bills and anything that break. It's not forever, but my grandfather protected me financially until I at least had a capacity and maturity to do so. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They've got some nerve even asking that of you. It blows my mind when people pop out almost an entire football team's worth of kids and then make it other people's problem. Honestly, if you can't afford to keep having kids, stop having kids. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If your parents can't afford to house and feed their 9 children on their own, then they should stop having kids. Their demands are also presumptuous. They will soon take over the house. And what about if you want to get married and have kids of your own? I would sit down with them and establish a timeline of how they intend to manage their lives independent of you. And make it clear that you will not be financially responsible for them, nor will you parent your siblings or give up your bedroom. Really? If OP gets married, it's only fair for them to move into the home OP already owns. Not the a-hole. Their baby, their problem. I do think it's good for you to pay your share of groceries and utilities. Beyond that, nope. And you know it will just get worse. Soon they'll be bothering you for money to feed, clothe, and educate their kids. Put your foot down. You're already generously letting them stay rent-free. If they don't like the situation, they can leave. So no, you aren't an a-hole. Not at all. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my sister-in-law and her kids to move out of my house? I've been with my boyfriend for 6 years now. And after 2 years of dating, we got our own place together, including my stepson who we have full-time. This was our first ever house we each have had without living with parents/family. My sister-in-law lived with her mom, stepdad, and her 4 kids. She's a single mother. They ended up losing the house because of financial reasons and pretty much had nowhere to go. So I told my partner that his sister and kids can stay with us until she gets her own place. One of her kids ended up staying with her grandmother. Anyway, so my sister-in-law and her 3 kids moved in with my partner, stepson, and I into our small 3-bedroom house. We made it accommodating so we could all live comfortably together. At first, we were pretty close and hung out a lot, but as time went by, we started drifting apart. I think it was because of the fact my sister-in-law just stayed home all day, didn't get a job, or even look for one, never helped out with the bills or rent, and would just go out on dates with random guys she met online all the time. My partner and I both work full-time jobs, and every day I would come home and the house was an absolute mess because of all the kids. They tried to clean it, but honestly, there was no point, because it would just end up going back to being messy, and I was so sick of it. This went on for over a year. She still didn't have a job and was living here for free. I would tell my partner that she needs to move out, but as she is his big sister, he defended her, even though he was annoyed as well. She ended up getting a boyfriend and would let him stay over at our house with his 2 kids. That's a total of 9 people now in our 3-bedroom house. They would have fights in the house and even broke one of the bedroom doors. My partner and I were so ticked off at the lack of respect they had. They ended up replacing the door, but that was it. I was over it. I started to put a list together of houses up for lease so she could start looking for a place. But she didn't seem interested. Later on, I found out that she was actually speaking to my stepson's biological mother, who at the time was very jealous of my partner and I being together and having my stepson full-time and was trying to come up with ways to try and break my partner and I up. It was the ultimate snake move in my opinion. It didn't work though, and we had to sit her down and confront her about it. Can't really forgive her for it. But still, am I the a-hole for wanting them to move out knowing they kind of had nowhere to go, and it wasn't the kid's fault for anything? Not the a-hole. She is beyond disrespectful. Set a date and tell her that she needs to be out by that date, whether she has somewhere to go or not. She can go live with the mom of the stepson since they are so buddy-buddy. Not the a-hole. Your husband is way out of pocket here. I have a pretty similar situation minus the escalation. We have raised and been parents to my 10-year-old nephew almost since he was born. My sister moved in 3 years ago and was unemployed for about a year and a half. Before she moved in, I made sure that my husband knew that this was a 2 yeses situation. If he wanted her gone, she would be gone. I would be the one to handle any awkward situation or laying down the law with her. And I did. I was the one who sat her down and told her she had a month to find a job and pay rent or leave. It was not okay for your husband to say she gets to stay, even when the main problem was just her being unemployed. It's insane for him to try to force you to live with her now. Hard no. I would say she goes, or I go, except I wouldn't have to because my husband isn't an a-hole and wouldn't make me. Well, the good news, good for sister-in-law that is that she doesn't have to worry about conspiring to break them up. The guy's almost done doing her work for her. Not the a-hole. 1. She's not looking for a job to support her family and help with expenses. 2. She's not helping around the house or at least cleaning up the kids' messes. 3. She brings in even more people, still without helping with rent or chores. 4. She actively tried to sabotage your relationship. Have her pack up right now. She can stay with her good friend, the stepson's bio mom. 60 days if you are generous. 30 days if you want a shield from naysayers. Please look into your area's squatter rights, because 30 is standard for many landlords in my area. Again, do your research. Personally, after the relationship sabotage attempt, 3 days tops. Her poor kids. They are probably sick of her too. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not being willing to put my boyfriend on the deed on the new house? So, some background. My boyfriend and I have been together over a year and lived together since the beginning of the year. He doesn't hold down a job for more than a few weeks and has been through like 8 this year already. We are already rocky because of his attitude and not helping with finances when I've told him I need help. Now, I'm looking at selling my house. I got my house in my divorce from my ex-husband and it's paid off. I have primary custody, so he wanted me to keep it. Now, I want something different, and a 3 to 4 bedroom instead of the 2 bedroom I have. I want to buy another house from the proceeds of this one, either through using the money from it as a down or buying straight out. The problem is, boyfriend wants to be on the deed for the other house. He's not helping with bills as it is, and he's not contributing any money to buy the next one. His mother is throwing a fit because I told him it's not happening. I also think that's because she wants to move in and rent a room, which I also said no to due to severe drinking problem. But now he's mad that I said no and that everyone said I'm being a bad person. Everyone being his mother and friend, who doesn't like me anyway. We're not married and he wants to be someday, but I don't. I've been down that road and I'm not in a hurry to do it again. So I question, am I the a-hole for not being willing to put him on the deed? Edit. Since everyone is asking, I think I needed to hear it from others to make sure I wasn't overreacting. When we got together, he had a stable job that he had had for years and was paying all his bills and seemed stable. The second we moved in together, it changed, and he had to find a different job because I lived an hour and a half away, then just never stayed in them. He lost his car this year because I wouldn't pay for it. I think I just needed to see that I wasn't overreacting because I've been ready to end it for a bit. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You'd be an idiot to put him on the deed. That said, why are you even with this loser? Is the intimacy at least good? Because I am not seeing any redeeming qualities. He's lazy and greedy and selfish and mean. Not the a-hole. Absolutely do not put him on the deed. He wants to just be given half of your house that you are buying for your family? WTF? Definitely not the a-hole. You've only been dating a year. Think hard about what he is asking of you, and if you're prepared for his expectations from you in the future of this relationship. Not the a-hole. However, I think you should check into common law property laws before you do this. If he starts living with you in the house after you purchase it for many years, he could be entitled to it if you all ever break up. Be careful. He sounds shady. He's already mooching off you, so he will definitely try to take you to the cleaners if you ever try to kick him out. Didn't even think about this. You seem to be making really bad decisions regarding significant others. Use the move to the new house as a way to get this man out of your house. Stop financially supporting a grown man. That's money you're taking from your children and giving to him, either directly or indirectly. You should get some therapy. But until then, a hard boundary should be no moving anyone into your house. Around the 1-year mark is when responsible adults introduce their partner to their kids. There's no way in hell you should be living together. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my daughter's plane ticket, but paying for my youngest daughter who this vacation is dedicated to? Hello all. I have 2 daughters named Kate, 23 female, and Alexa, 16 female. For starters, Kate lives with me rent-free and bill-free. She used to live with her mom full-time, but her mom kicked her out at 18. I don't blame her mother though. Kate was absolutely terrible in her teenage years. She was rude, disrespectful, and would steal, smoke, skip class, etc. Kate barely finished high school and was put in a continuation school. Since this though, Kate is doing a lot better. She didn't want to go to college, but she works at a fast food restaurant and is saving up for her own apartment. Alexa, on the other hand, is the opposite. She's amazing in school, works, volunteers, and still has time to do sports and clubs. I'm extremely proud of her and feel as if she puts too much pressure on herself. Me and my girlfriend decided to surprise her on a vacation. Alexa has always wanted to go there, and it wasn't as pricey as we expected. We planned this in early October. I told Kate about the vacation and asked if she wanted to come, but she would have to pay her own ticket. She said yes and would give me the money before Halloween. Well, she never gave me the money, even after being reminded, so I booked the trip November 1st for the 18th to 21st of November. I told my daughter this Sunday at dinner and she was very excited. Kate then said, "You'll have to cancel and hope they refund. I work those days." I told her she wasn't coming since she didn't pay. She was confused and thought I was paying for her. I told her that she was an adult who worked and lived free. Why would I pay? She got upset and said because I'm her daughter, and that I was paying for Alexa, so why not her? An argument then ensued, which resulted in Alexa and Kate crying, with Kate saying she hated me. Kate has been ignoring us until we apologize and pay her ticket, which I won't. Well, yesterday Alexa sent me a link to a video on TikTok where it shows Kate crying and explaining the situation, but she lied about a lot of things in the videos and made Alexa and I look like bad guys. The video got a lot of attention and support. She even opened up a GoFundMe where she received close to $500. I showed my girlfriend and we were both livid. Alexa was also very upset about the comments, which fueled my anger. When she came home, a huge argument broke out and I basically kicked her out for the week. She's been posting on social media platforms since, talking about me, my daughter, and girlfriend. My daughter even got some nasty messages on her social media. My girlfriend told me I'm right on this, but my daughter told me to just pay for her ticket. I want to know if I'm doing the right decision, so help. Not a-hole. One daughter is over 18 and has a job. The other is under 18 and at school. It is entirely reasonable to expect one to be able to pay her own way, while paying for the one who hasn't had any opportunity to make money for herself. The fact that Kate is willing to lie about you and her sister on the internet for sympathy and money should tell you something about her character. You could even report the GoFundMe as being fraudulent. Yes, please do report her to GoFundMe. She should not profit from this. Kinda think everyone sucks here. Her reaction is pretty bad, but it kinda seems like you're stacking the deck against her for past behavior a bit when they're both your daughters. Mentioning about how Kate was absolutely terrible as a child, even though you admit she's doing way better now, while being extremely proud of Alexa when that's not really relevant to the story is a pretty big tell. I'd be pretty upset too if I felt like my parents were totally favoring my younger sibling. Also, while sure 23 is an adult, it's hardly some unusual event for a 23-year-old to still be living at home while they save up for their own place. It's nice that you're letting her live there rent-free, but she's not some random tenant. She's a part of your family, and probably, and I would say rightfully, feels incredibly hurt that you're all going on vacation without her. You're obviously within your rights to say she has to pay her own way, and her reaction is immature, but you might want to look in the mirror a little bit as to why her reaction is what it is. Even if Opie looks down on Kate for being a former problem child, how does that change the fact Kate initially agreed to pay for her own ticket? It doesn't. That's why everyone sucks here. Her actions aren't right either. She is an adult who is acting like a child. Roasting your family on TikTok is hardly a bastion of maturity. And if she said she'd pay, so be it. But there's clearly bigger issues here with communication. Maybe it's just part of Opie making the case for why they're not the a-hole, but I also really think the description of the problem child versus the little angel who can do no wrong is discomforting too. It's just totally irrelevant to the story. If your argument is she's an adult, she should pay her own way, that's fine. But how they acted as a teenager shouldn't matter. But it really seems like it does. And it seems like that colors the whole story. Would I be the a-hole if I asked my daughter to return her inheritance? I have 2 sons and a daughter. All of my children are college-aged. My first son wanted to study medicine, and medicine is very expensive. After he finished high school, my husband got sick and my firstborn daughter Janine took over the business. She opted not to go to university but encouraged her brother to pursue medicine and that she will work in the family business and pays fees. Her other brother also wants to pursue medicine, so Janine agreed to pay for them too. That was 6 years ago, and all of her siblings are finished with their studies and doing internships. My husband's health has also improved, but my daughter still runs the business. My daughter decided to move to Canada since all of her siblings have become self-sufficient and my husband and I have saved for retirement. I was talking to my husband and he was thinking about writing a will. He decided that from the sales of the business, Janine will receive 70% of the money and her siblings will share the 30% left equally. His reasoning was that the business paid for the medical school fees and it is expensive. Since Janine did not go to medical school and worked in the business, she should get all of the money. I do agree that Janine put her life on hold for her siblings, but she is getting married to a very rich man who will take care of her. My sons, on the other hand, will need money to get married and they all want to stay-at-home wives. I can't seem to change my husband's opinion. I think that they should all share the money equally. Janine has a very strong business sense. She changed our company. Before, it was making 1 million profits in a year, but when she took over, it started making 3 million. She can start her own business, and I know she can make it thrive. Meanwhile, the money doctors making during their internship and residency is very low. I tried to explain this to my husband, but all he says is they should start eating ramen noodles and stop relying on their sister. I have decided to ask Janine to give her money to her brothers after her dad transfers it. So would I be the a-hole if I ask that of her? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. She already sent the rest of your kids to college for you. Now you want her to get less inheritance? At what point does she ever get a return on her hard work? And remember, this was written by OP, so she probably painted herself in the best light possible. Imagine how bad she truly acted and is acting. She also expects her son's future wives to stay at home and not work, while she wants her daughter to start her own business after she gets married. Okay, so your daughter stepped in and passed up on college to take over the business for your family. She paid for the son's education. She even tripled the profits of the business. In what world is it fair to her to penalize her for marrying someone with money? I'm not done yet. Now, your husband clearly owns 100% of the asset. For whatever reason, it is his, not yours. In what world is it fair to go around him and try to ensure his asset isn't divided as he has planned for it? Not sure why you love your sons more than your daughter. The supposed justification that doctors don't earn enough, but yet they plan to have stay-at-home wives, is a complete load of crap, and you know it. You don't love your daughter. You do love your sons. You have a chance to at least avoid pointing this out to her here. Your interference will accomplish nothing but hard feelings within your family. You're the a-hole. My God, woman, you are truly the a-hole here. Your daughter did what she could do to help out the entire family. 1. She helped her father when he was ill and continued running the business so you and your husband would still have a roof over your heads. 2. Your daughter sacrificed her own personal interest for herself by not attending university to help the family. 3. While working for that same business, she was able to increase profits for her father's company and assist her brothers in gaining an education to pursue careers as doctors. 4. Then when your husband has recovered and wants to reward his daughter for her personal sacrifices, it wants to reimburse her down the road for her kindness and love of family. Somehow, you can't get it through your poor sons who will do just fine down the road because their freaking doctors scold that your husband is 1000% happy to reward his daughter for the love, support, and sacrifice she endured for you all? And so what? She just happened to have met a lovely man who just appears to be wealthy, and that should cover it. Your husband wants to make sure she gets what she deserves. Let the man do so. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not telling my mom I got full ride scholarship to college? I, 18 female, stopped living at my mom's when I was 17. She and I do not have a very good relationship and has become more strained over the years. The trouble started when I was 8 and my mom started dating her husband. I was several months out from losing my dad, and when she introduced me to her husband, then boyfriend, I was honest that I did not like her dating. She told me I would come around. But within 4 months, she left me with a cousin and got engaged to the guy while his kids were present. I found out because my cousin got a text with a photo of them, and the news had already gone around the rest of my mom's family and her husband's family. Then I was the last person to find out about her being pregnant 2 years after that point. Her stepson, who was 15 at the time, decided he would taunt me with the news and saying how mom had fully replaced my dad and I was next. I don't think he actually saw it that way, but he knew that's how I felt about mom being remarried. Apparently, they were all taken by their dad to be told while my mom was telling her family. I think it was like a week later when he taunted me over it. They did attempt to include me in stuff, but because I wasn't into it, that was kind of just left to be its own thing. Mom pulled away from me and would then feel bad and try to bond. Eventually, I just decided I had lost her because I couldn't blend with her husband and his kids, and because she would always resent me for that, the way I resented her for moving so fast after dad and putting everyone before me. I moved in with my dad's parents. This is where I was when I applied for college and stuff, and I got the scholarship. I never told my mom. We didn't talk for months. And it's only after I started college last week that she had reached out to my grandparents about something and she found out. She was upset, furious, all the stuff, and she asked how I could leave her out of something so huge, because she would have celebrated the news with me. I told her I didn't really consider her part of my life anymore, and just like she had moved on from her life away from me, I had done the same away from her. She told me it was different and I was being cruel. Her husband took over and demanded I go to them and discuss everything as a family so that my mom could have the life she deserves and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. I never set out to hurt my mom, but I did stop thinking about her role in my life after I moved out. Am I the a-hole? So that my mom could have the life she deserves and have her kid treat her right instead of being selfish and spoiled. That right there says it all. It still isn't about you. She/they are still only thinking of themselves. And how dare you not submit to them? Not today, OP. I hope you have a good time at college. Yep, stepdad sounds like a piece of work. What's that? You put in the effort to get a full-ride scholarship to college? How selfish and spoiled you must be. It's clear that neither of them intended to put up money for college if OP had already started by the time they found out, and then they chose to be mad about it rather than happy for her. Interesting emotional choice to say the least. I wouldn't be surprised if they heard she was in college and reached out because they wondered how she was paying for it. Not out of desire to help, but to figure out if they might be entitled to it. I think mom wanted to make a big online brag about her daughter getting a big scholarship. My absent parent complained that no one was congratulating him over the accomplishment of the child he hadn't spoken to for years. Like he had anything to do with it. Not today, home. She didn't do the work to keep you in her family, so yeah, you aren't part of her family. Why would you tell her when she isn't part of your life? Congratulations on your scholarship. I know that must have taken some work. It's interesting that your mom is upset not to know about your scholarship, but had no discussion with you about your plans after graduation. That seems so basic a discussion. Hey, what are your plans? Communication is a two-way street. If this assumption is correct, she never asked you your plans. Then not today, hole. We hadn't talked in months, so no, she never asked me plans for college or anything. Not recently anyway. When I was 15, we got into a fight about it, but otherwise nothing. She abandoned you. She doesn't get to have it both ways. You can't abandon a child and then be a priority to the child. She sounds insufferable. Not today, hole. Just go no contact with her and walk away. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting my parents in town but not at my house while I'm adjusting to life with a newborn? I'm 24 female. I'm currently pregnant. Due in December. I live with my fiancé Dan in the town where I grew up. I have a great relationship with my parents, but they had me quite late in life and they're both retired now, living in a beach town in the south. When they moved out, they sold me the house I grew up in well below market value, in exchange for me hosting them when they needed/wanted to come into town. It's been like that for 2 years. They've been here a bunch of times for 3 to 4 days at a time, and it's been a good arrangement, I think. Now, yesterday, I was talking to my mom about the birth, and I brought up that I would like her to be in town when I give birth, and to stay for a few weeks after. Dan has no relationship with his family, and I'm an only child, with only a couple of very elderly aunts and a few cousins I don't have much of a relationship with, so we don't really have much in terms of a support system. Therefore, I'd love for my parents to come here and help around the house, with the baby, offer me the emotional support I know I'm going to need, etc. My mom was excited that I was asking her to do this, and said that she'd be okay with staying with us for a few weeks while we adjusted to the baby. I then told her that I didn't mean her staying with us, just in town, as I believe Dan and I are going to need and want alone time to adjust to the baby. My mom was a little offended, saying that she wasn't going to bother us and she was going to help out. But I told her it was nothing personal. I just preferred if she got a hotel or Airbnb or something. My father then intervened, having been somewhere within earshot, and said that accommodation was going to be really expensive around that time of the year. Our town has a very famous, very big Christmas market, and he wasn't going to spend thousands of dollars when I was asking them to come. And it had been our agreement when they sold me the house that they could stay whenever they wanted. Which is fair, but I don't think that having a newborn at home is just a regular time in someone's life. And it's not like I ever complained about them coming over before. I just don't want them in the house, but I do want them in town. And I feel a little sad that they're putting money above me and their grandson. My mother hung up the call trying to appease the situation, but then sent me a text saying that her and my dad were a little upset over the whole thing, and that they thought I wasn't being reasonable. When Dan got home, I told him all this and he kind of sided with them, saying that they should be allowed to stay with us. But I still don't think it makes sense as we are going to be needing our alone time. Was I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. You're not the a-hole for wanting privacy with your husband as you adjust to being parents. But you're the a-hole for asking your parents to come, but stay at a hotel without offering to pay for it. Sadly, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Wanting support is understandable, but if you want them near but not at your home, you need to pay for it. It's unreasonable to ask them to foot the bill. It's understandable to want privacy and time to adjust, and you are not obligated to have anyone in your home that you do not want. But I'm astounded by your entitlement. You want your elderly parents to spend thousands to stay in an Airbnb for a month during holiday season and provide you with emotional and practical support while you adjust to parenthood? Have you forgotten who's doing who the favor? You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Either let them stay at your house or pay for their hotel/B&B/whatever yourself, or don't expect them to visit. They're doing you a favor. A second favor at that, since they already sold you their house at well below market value in exchange for your letting them stay there when they visit. I'm not saying you're an a-hole for not wanting house guests when you have a new baby, just that you can't demand that they visit for an extended period to help you, but insist that they pay their own way. She also wants them there to help with housework. She's asking them to come over and clean the house they're not allowed to stay in, then leave to go back to the hotel she expects them to pay for. The audacity of some new parents. I'm actually flabbergasted. The entitlement reeks in this post. Imagine being a parentless, infertile, homeless woman with dreams of becoming a mother, having a roof over their head. This has checked your privilege all over it. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law she's ruining her relationship with her newly adopted son? My sister-in-law, my husband's oldest sister, and her husband have been foster parents forever. Just recently, like the past 3 months recently, one of their longtime foster kids officially became their son after living with them for 4 years. And sister-in-law and her husband have decided they are changing his first name because it's too weird and not a real name. Given his name is incredibly uncommon, and not my kid, I won't share it, but think of something along the lines of word names that relate to the ocean. He loves his name. He has never expressed any kind of bad vibe about his name, and he has actually asked them not to change it. Speaking as someone who also has a very uncommon name, at least for the US, and think constellation for what mine could be, and who loves my name also, I feel so bad for him. They told him he would thank them one day, and to think about how nice it would be for him to be named by his parents instead of by strangers. He's almost 9, and he told them it was part of who he is. He also pointed to me, but they said I was different, and that I am not a doctor or a lawyer, so my name is less of a hindrance. He said he doesn't want to be a doctor or a lawyer either. They told him he could change his mind, and in the corporate world his current name would not work. I pointed out that I do have a corporate job and have never had problems. But again, I am different. They decided his name should be James or William, and they are working on deciding which to use while giving him a family name. My husband told them they should listen to me. Sister-in-law went on a tangent about how I don't know what I'm talking about, and I should sit down and consider the harm my parents did to me by inflicting me with a name as stupid as mine. I told her she could insult me, my parents, and everyone else who gives their kids names she doesn't like, but she has to accept the fact her son wants to keep his name. And just seeing these people who promise to love him and be his family when he didn't always have one, try to change him and tell him he's wrong for hating his name. I said she might not see it, but she is seriously harming their relationship. And she should be prepared for him to not forgive her for this. I also pointed out how it is a link to his biological parents, not just to random strangers, but to people who are no longer alive to care for him. I can't say what she said, but she told me I should mind my own business, that I had no right to say any of this to her, which might be true. Am I the a-hole? My knee-jerk is that this has zero to do with the corporate world. This is all about her discomfort with a name she sees as less than normal. That kid has a rough ride ahead. The kid already has a job to do. Assimilate and grow up to be a doctor or lawyer. That would be a great return on an investment on their part. Buy kid and he in turn buys you a nice house to retire in. Just waiting for them to fling out during an argument how he needs to be grateful to them always no matter what, because they adopted him and they didn't need to. I mean, that is an easy fix, even if they change it. Tell the kid that he doesn't have to respond to a name he doesn't identify with, and he can change it back when he turns 18. When my mother started calling me by a nickname I didn't like, I would simply pretend I didn't hear her until she got frustrated and used my real name. OP should start saving money and offer to give it to him when he's 18 as a birthday gift.